YouTube Ozico, the Godows is back. In this video, it's going to be a little bit of a preview for day one of the NFL draft, mainly focusing on the first round, and we're going to go through every team, but we will also touch on the teams that do not have a first round pick. So go team by team. One of those videos where you kind of got to listen to me talk. Not a whole lot going on with the graphics. I'll put the timestamps in there. Going to break down what they could do, possible draft picks, which players they could take, what I'm hearing lately, what's the latest rumors, maybe some wild card options for them as well. So this should be a lot of fun. We have content that got you ready for the NFL draft. We'll have my final mock still, and then we'll be live during day one of the NFL draft when it all kicks off, and a lot of coverage on Twitter too. So make sure you follow that. Make sure you like, subscribe to notifications on, joins for that live stream. Any link you're looking for our sponsors, our Twitter, anything else, pinned in the comment section there. Check them out. First, here is our schedule for the upcoming the weekend here for the NFL draft. If you want to pause the video and take a look at that, you could right now. It's also on our Twitter. But to the Carolina Panthers on day one of the NFL draft. Not a huge preview here, but we will make it interesting. We don't want to leave the Carolina fans hanging here. But there's not a whole lot to go in depth about because we do think it'll be Bryce Young first overall. I think all of you out there think it as well. So what else to expect from the Carolina Panthers? Could they possibly trade up into the first? I think because of that big trade they did with the Chicago Bears, probably not much more trading up. Maybe some small ones throughout the rest of the draft, moving up a few spots to make, which I don't love doing in the rest of the later in the draft, but it could happen. But if they were to target somebody in a trade up, who could it be? They added quite a few receivers already through free agency. DJ Chark, Adam Thielen, even though they moved on from DJ Moore. But I heard them linked to Jonathan Mingo, and that actually, the Ole Miss receiver, and that actually makes some sense in terms of fit. Frank Reich's offense, he's a big body guy, which he liked in Indianapolis with the Colts. Good hands, which, he's going to value that as well. And it's a guy that can play the slot, play outside, and he also is really good at blocking. It just feels like one of those Reich Colts receivers, and I think he has a lot of upside at the NFL and the next level, I should say. So that could be a guy. Maybe they target early in the second round. Maybe if they absolutely have to have him, maybe they move up a little bit late first round. It's a possibility. I'm not really counting on it. I think edge is a big need. I really thought they were going to get Leonard Floyd. Well, guess what? They still could because he's still a free agent. So if they pass on an edge early, meaning second round and on, maybe that's the plan. Could they use another defensive lineman? I know the fans really want a corner, but could they roll with what they have? We know J.C. Horn's legit. They could roll with some of the other guys as well because Ejiro Evero is a pretty good defense coordinator, really good at coaching the corners with that cover four defense. They just got to cover the boundary pretty much. I mean, it's not super easy, but he could make them better. So maybe they feel good about their corners, looking for a zone corner, cover four. There's a really deep class. They could get one on day two. But again, this video mainly focusing on day one. I think they will take Bryce Young. I don't expect them to move in the first round, but some guys that kind of keep in positions and guys to keep an eye on there for the Carolina Panthers. This is where it gets pretty damn interesting at the second overall pick with the Houston Texans. Since we heard that they may not take a quarterback at 2, and we'll talk about both picks here. Both the 2 and 12 for the Texans. Since we've heard the news that they could pass at a quarterback, I've been mocking them Tyree Wilson a bit, and I'm probably going to stick to that. My final mock will come out tomorrow. It could be Will Anderson. I'm leaning Tyree Wilson or Will Anderson here. Will Anderson, the better edge rusher. Wilson, a little more versatile, and he can fit DeMeco Ryans' defense very, very well because he can move him around a bit. But those are the two picks I look at. Some people still think it could be Stroud just because how could it not be Stroud? I'm kind of in that boat, but my prediction actually is a different way. There's some people that think Levis. I don't think so. I've also heard recently that the ceiling, earliest he can go, Will Levis, is 4. So that kind of takes the Texans out of the conversation. I wouldn't remove that completely. So I guess those are the 4 guys I'm looking at. Tyree Wilson, Will Anderson, CJ Stroud, and Will Levis. And I'm not really looking at anyone else for this pick at number 2. Or another option is to trade back. We've heard that they really want to trade down. I feel like if they did, they wouldn't want to go down far. I don't think anyone's going to come up to 2. Why? Because they're not dying to come up to get a player, that much at 2. And it's possible to possibly trade for number 3. So why would they trade up to 2? It doesn't make you more of so I got to help hop the Colts if you want to hop anybody. So the trade back is an option, but those are the options. I really think it's Tyree Wilson or Will Anderson, and that really, even though they're both edge rushers, depending on who it is, it can shake up the entire rest of the top 10. But leaning towards Tyree Wilson right now. And then for 12, I think I had in my last mock too. I really like the idea of, because at least one of those quarterbacks is going to drop. I shouldn't say at least, or maybe 2. Maybe it's Stroud and Richardson, or maybe it's Levis and Richardson, or they drop a little bit. Texans can trade up because there's teams that want to trade back. Trade up from 12 and get a quarterback. Best case in that scenario would have been C.J. Stroud. I love that idea, but the reports we were talking about on Twitter already, the reports earlier today is they could trade back from 12 and then possibly trade back up. And I played around with that scenario before. I think did I talk about it on Twitter? I don't remember if I made that one in a video. Done so many mock drafts, but 33rd overall, trade back up into the first round, get the 5th-year option on a quarterback like Hendon Hooker would be the guy. So interesting that you don't take one at 2, you don't take one at 12, but you trade up. People will question that, but that is a possibility. So they do want to trade back from 12, it sounds like, to get more picks, and then to be able to trade back up and then get the quarterback, and you still have extra picks left over, I would guess, because 12 is more valuable than 33 going up to late first round. Who could they trade with late first round? Eagles. Eagles is a really good spot at 30. The highest I can see them trading up, the very, very highest, the Ravens at 22. But I look at the Vikings at 23. That'd be the very highest. There's been some talk about the Vikings getting Hendon Hooker, so maybe have to go up to 22, and the Ravens they need more picks, so they could look to go back. That's a pretty far jump, though. That's further than I would think. I'm really looking at that Eagles pick at 30, around that range. Makes some sense. There's always those surprise teams that everyone's let down. Like that team didn't pick in the first round at all. Those fans are pissed off. So, could see that. But what do they do at 12 and move back? This actually could kind of make sense. And that kind of proves that they're taking an edge rusher at 2, because you wouldn't trade back with 12 if you're going to take an edge rusher there. You wouldn't trade back to take a quarterback with 12. Now, trade back from 12 to the teens or 20s and take a quarterback. You don't trade back and take a quarterback. So this actually would kind of make sense with my other thought when I had them taking Jordan Addison at one point. Just by fit, I figured they might like him a little more than Jackson Smith-Njigba, and I still could be wrong. But for them moving back a little bit, and Jackson Smith-Njigba was supposed to go around that range, be the first receiver, move back a little bit, and then take Addison, it would kind of make sense. Or could it be another receiver? Could it be Zay Flowers? Could it be Quentin Johnson? I would more lean towards Addison. But that could be the plan with the 12 move back there. Anything else? Just one of those receivers. A deep wild card with that 12 move back would be a tight end. They got a big-time guy in Dalton Schultz. It's a 1-year deal. 49ers like offense are going to value tight ends, so do they add a guy like, I think they would be more interested in a Michael Mayer. I think they kind of got their Kincaid and Schultz. I think they would be more interested in a guy like Michael Mayer. So that would be the wild card. There's really nothing else I see there, unless they don't take a edge rusher at 2. If they take a quarterback at 2, then 12, we're starting to look at edge rushers. And do they move back because they like a guy that they know will be there? If they can move back from 12 and get a guy like Myles Murphy, that'd be fantastic. But it's to pick up picks and get him, I just don't think that's the case there. So an extremely interesting team here, and very interesting. And day 1 of the NFL draft. Can't wait to see what they do. Arizona Cardinals at number 3 overall. It became interesting. We kind of thought Will Anderson, most likely, unless he's not there, and Tyree Wilson would be there then, and maybe him. But now it's getting interesting because they're very much linked to Paris Johnson Jr., and they do need an offensive lineman. They have an opportunity to get a good one here, and we have heard they want to trade back. So to me, I was talking about this on Twitter a little bit earlier too. My thinking is they really, really wanted to trade back, so they probably fell in love with that idea, and they fell in love with the target they were going to get by trading back. That, keep in mind, if you're trading back, you're okay with passing on the top-tier targets, like Will Anderson. And then maybe, an option is to trade back still. Does somebody want to hop over the Colts, or the Colts want to move up one spot? Those are possibilities. It just sounds like there's always less trades than we think are going to happen, in the top 10 in the NFL draft. And it's sounding like lately that could be the case coming up too. So maybe they don't trade back. But Yeah, my thinking is they end up taking the guy that they planned on taking in the trade back. Do I agree with it? No. You got to take best player available, especially the Cardinals with so many needs. You just take best player available, and that would be Will Anderson or Jalen Carter at this point. Or C.J. Stroud, but they're not going to take a quarterback. But I'm starting to think that them being linked to Paris Johnson Jr. kind of makes some sense there in terms of fit. Kyler Murray likes him, and that's who they would have targeted in the trade back. And if they do trade back, you don't want to go, if you really, really want Paris Johnson Jr., you don't want to go back behind Chicago because the Bears will take him at 9. The fans right now, they're probably not dying to get Paris Johnson Jr., so they would like to trade back, get some picks maybe if they're not going to take Will Anderson or something here. But I think they could. I'm starting to think they really could, and I mocked it in my last one too. They could stay put and take Paris Johnson Jr., but Will Anderson is still up for discussion in my mind and maybe for them. And then I heard they really like Tyree Wilson if he's there. He sounds like he'll be the Texans pick, my opinion. But if he's there, that is also a possibility. And then Devin Witherspoon from Illinois, I heard they really liked him, and he's supposed to go earlier than expected. So that could be the pick. Remember the corners went around this range last year, and that was a little bit of a surprise until draft day. On draft day, we heard that was going to be Stingley and Sauce going that early. It was a little bit of a surprise. So maybe they go with one of those corners. Maybe Gonzalez is kind of the wild card here. The wild card would be Jalen Carter. Wild cards would be Gonzalez, and I don't know if Gonzalez would have been that much of a wild card a couple weeks ago, but right now Gonzalez and Jalen Carter, the most likely picks, most likely options: Paris Johnson Jr., Will Anderson, Devin Witherspoon, Tyree Wilson if he's there, or trade back. So you kind of got 5 right there. I don't think Wilson will be there. If he is, that means Will Anderson's probably gone. And then Wilson's an interesting option for the Cardinals. I wouldn't love the pick there. I would much rather them go somewhere else with that. I don't love the fit with Wilson there as much as I did with Houston, actually, with DeMeco Ryans' defense. So we'll see. Those are some options there for the Cardinals, and then they're very intriguing now because the hype, maybe it's smoke on Paris Johnson Jr., but they have an opportunity. And remember, they're switching to outside zone. They've been running, that Kingsbury scheme over there. They're switching to outside zone running scheme. And Paris Johnson Jr. is the outside zone tackle in this class, and he's really the one and only top tier. Like this, Broderick Jones could be that guy, but if the Cardinals do find a way to trade way back, like 10 past there, further back, then Broderick Jones could be the option then. But talking about like legit left tackle, outside zone scheme, it kind of makes sense as a fit. 3 is a little early, but if you have to have your guy. And that's who they wanted in the trade back, and they can't trade back. That is who they can pick. So very interesting at number 3. Colts at 4. This is going to be a quarterback. Not a long list of options here. We got 4. I got 4 options. What everyone's talking about right now, what I recently mocked in Will Levis, and then C.J. Stroud, because that's the guy. That's the best guy. That's the best available quarterback right now. Best available player. He can help you win right now. So that's a big time option. And Anthony Richardson, who's kind of been connected to the Colts throughout this most of the pre-draft process because maybe his running ability, his upside, fitting with Shane Steichen's offense. And then I said there was 4 options. 4th option would involve one of those guys, but it would be trading up 1 spot or 2 to the Texans. I wouldn't recommend it. I think you can stay put and get one of those guys at 4. I'd say if it's Stroud, if they're taking Stroud and they move, I love Stroud. I hate moving up 1 spot. I would not trade with the Texans at 2. Would not do it no matter what. Even though as much as I love Stroud, I just wouldn't do it. 2 spots, help your division rival out when it's not necessary because you don't need to hop the Cardinals. I hate trading up 1 spot, always been against it, but it won't be the end of the world if they get Stroud there. If they trade up a spot or 2 and get Levis and Richardson, I don't really care if those guys got all the upside in the world. I'm really not going to like it. And at 4, I will question something like Levis as well. Just lacking that. I keep talking about lacking that touch. He doesn't have that touch on the ball, and can he figure that out? A lot of mechanics to fix. Where Richardson, it's really just got to fix his footwork. Not even his footwork in the drop back or maneuvering. It's just when he throws. I think you can fix that. He's my number 15th player, so it's a little early per my board, but it's not like I would dislike it at all. But I would like for them to take Stroud. I had Levis last time in the mock. We'll see what I do in my final mock. I'm still undecided because part of me just thinks Because I heard Ed Dodds, their assistant GM, really likes Stroud, and he's saying that he's going to fit Steichen's offense. And I haven't heard what Steichen's opinion is, so he's got to have the final say there. And he could like any of the three. I could see him liking any of the three, honestly. Then Ballard apparently was intrigued by Richardson, but likes Levis, and the Mannings approved of Levis as well. So last time we heard the Mannings approve of somebody, it was Daniel Jones for the Giants, and they took him surprisingly, but maybe it shouldn't have been that surprising. Now we got the Colts. I mean, the Colts are going to take the Eli played for the Giants, and Peyton played for the Colts. So very interesting there. It really sounds like it's probably going to be Levis, but I've seen some people last second very recently start to say Stroud because you got it, right? You got it. So, yeah, I just hope they don't trade up a spot or two if they get Stroud. It's not the end of the world if they do that, but they'll have their options. They'll have their options here. So we'll see what the Colts do. They haven't been doing good with the quarterback decisions in the past. Ballard could have lost his job. He kept it. Does he make a questionable decision? We've seen that kind of stuff before. We'll see what happens. Seattle at 5, and they pick at 20. So we'll talk about both of those. I kind of been saying it. I really feel like it's Will Anderson or it's Jalen Carter. I put there's a little bit on Anthony Richardson possibly being the pick. I mean, what if Stroud's there? You gotta consider it, but maybe they want the upside guy to sit behind Geno. But if Tyree Wilson's there, I think that means Will Anderson is not. Hard for me to believe that both Tyree Wilson and Will Anderson are both available. I think there's some sort of small percentage, but I don't think so. So it's Tyree Wilson / Will Anderson versus Jalen Carter versus a smaller percentage on Anthony Richardson. I don't really see any of the other options. I think they would like Christian Gonzalez. I don't think they would pick him here. So I've been back and forth on like my mocks with Jalen Carter and Will Anderson, because I think those would be the two guys that are here. My number 2 and number three overall player in the class. I just keep hearing I love Carter. I keep hearing that teams are predicting them to take Carter. Now, teams aren't going to be right with predicting who other teams are going to take, but they can be pretty accurate, I would think. Maybe more accurate than the media. So every time I do a mock and I have Anderson still on the board, I'm like, I got to go Anderson right here over Carter. But then I just remember that, they've been linked to Carter like crazy. And then teams think they're taking Carter. I don't want to overthink things. I'm going to put Carter here. So it's really 50-50 with those two, or would say 49, 49, and then a couple extra, percentiles to Anthony Richardson, perhaps. Again, Will Anderson, Tyree Wilson are kind of together in that conversation. I'm leaning towards it being Will Anderson available, but they're kind of together. That versus Jalen Carter versus Anthony Richardson. I don't see any trade up, trade back. They have the 20th pick. There's going to be a surprise team or 2 or 3 or 4 trade up or down, but it could be the Seahawks. I don't think it will be. So we'll see. We've kind of narrowed it down though, the Seahawks. So like a lot of teams that could be this guy, and here's your wild card picks. I mean, the absolute wild card pick, to me, Richardson's almost a wild card pick, but the absolute wild card pick would be a guy like Christian Gonzalez, I think. Pair him with Tariq Woolen. Be fun. But I just don't think it's going to happen. Or, C.J. Stroud, Levis. I guess those could be more of the wild card picks after step down under Richardson there. I mean, if Stroud's there, everyone's got to consider it, man, because he's that good. So we'll see what the Seahawks do at pick 5. But at pick 20, almost forgot. Pick 20, man, it depends on what they do at 5. I mean, if they get Jalen Carter, which is a little bit more likely right now, maybe the edge rusher at 20. I'm starting to think Nolan Smith, who I mocked there in my last one, is not going to be there based on what I'm hearing. So that's tough. Will Van Ness be there? Will Myles Murphy be there? Do they like him as a fit? Because they're more 3-4 now. He feels like a 4-3. Will McDonald be a pretty good fit? Will McDonald, which they're not talking about him up there. I'm talking about him up there. So it might surprise some people. Don't be surprised about that one. B.J. Ojulari, a little bit of a wild card one if they need an edge rusher there, but I'd like it. Could they go corner? Is Joey Porter going to be there? Emmanuel Forbes may be a possibility. If they don't get Jalen Carter, do they go defensive tackle down there? Just feels like a little early based on what we're hearing. I wouldn't mind Keanu Benton, but I don't think he's going to go there at all. Could they go interior offensive line? Could they go Osiris Torrance? Could they go with Steve Avila? The wild card would be Joe Tippmann, which he's been getting some buzz lately. A wild card would be a wide receiver? I don't think JSN will be there. Could it be Jordan Addison? Say Flowers. That'd be a little of a wild card. Deeper wild card, a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs, I think would pair well with Kenneth Walker, and they kind of like having the 1-2 punch. So that actually that's actually a decent wild card to watch out for. Not saying it will happen, but so many scenarios there, just depending on what they do with that first pick. Does a quarterback slip through? Does Richardson really start to fall? And then does he fall away to 20? I think they would take him there. Does he fall to not quite 20, but a little bit higher earlier? Do they trade up? I think so. You see a number of possibilities here. But kind of we'll do my final mock, but kind of leaning towards Carter, and then that edge rusher or interior offensive lineman may be there with that next pick. So, yeah, it should be a fun night for the Seahawks and the Seahawks fans there with the possibilities with the 2 picks. The Lions have 2 picks. Lions got 2 picks that we'll discuss. 6 is the first one, obviously, and then that's we kind of can narrow that one down a little bit. And I keep hearing Devin Witherspoon a lot. I just keep hearing it. They love Devin Witherspoon. Kind of fits with the mentality what they're looking for. They need a corner in there. So definitely can see that, and that could be the plan. I like Christian Gonzalez a lot. That could be an option as well. Maybe it was Smoke they like Witherspoon. Maybe it's Gonzalez. But and then the wild card kind of would be a quarterback. I mean, if Stroud's there, you have to consider it. Richardson, his upside. If Levis is there, his upside, sitting behind Goff, possibly. Those are kind of the wild cards. If Stroud's there, I think they really consider it because he's got to be higher up on their board. Brad Holmes got to have him up on his board somewhere, But I would expect the corners, and I would expect the pick to be Devin Witherspoon. But if Will Anderson, I'm playing through some scenarios, Will Anderson is a possibility he slides a little bit and he's available here. I mean, looking at, Tyree Wilson goes 2 instead of him. And then 3, the Cardinals get that tackle. Paris Johnson they really want. And then Colts are going to take a quarterback at 4. And then 5, the Seahawks have a tough decision, and they will say they choose Jalen Carter over Will Anderson. Will Anderson's available here. So is it just too good to pass? Some people don't like Will Anderson as much as others. So do they have Witherspoon ahead of Anderson? It's a possibility. I don't know how much of a possibility. So maybe Will Anderson is too good to pass on. What if Jalen Carter's there? If it's Will Anderson versus Devin Witherspoon, I'm kind of 50-50 on my prediction on that. If it's Jalen Carter versus Witherspoon, I'm leaning towards Witherspoon still, or even Christian Gonzalez. So you kind of, is Witherspoon the most likely? Probably. Will Anderson, if he's there, could definitely be the pick. Then you look at Gonzalez, look at Jalen Carter, and then maybe some of those quarterbacks there. They got to strongly consider Stroud if he's there. I don't think they would take Richardson or Levis, but they would consider it, but not as strongly as Stroud. I heard they like Bijan, but that would be more of an 18 thing. And I heard they are already looking to trade back from 18. Do they take Bijan at 18? Will he be there? What if they took him at 6? I don't see it. Do they have any deeper wild cards? I mean, if Tyree Wilson's there, they could possibly take him. Miles Murphy could be a wild card one here. I like Miles Murphy. I'm pretty high on him, not as high as some of the other or Will Anderson that we talked about. But if he's off the board, I like Miles Murphy. And me and Brad Holmes have had similar boards, it seems like, because I keep liking what the Lions are doing. It keeps taking guys high on my board, so maybe there. So we'll see. Those are kind of the options with the Lions at 6. Could they trade back? If somehow Anderson and Witherspoon are both off the board, maybe I think they would kind of just take Gonzalez, or maybe Wilson to be available then, or Carter. Yeah, so I don't really see a trade back. Trade back with 18 is a possibility. What do they do at 18 if they stay put? It could be Bijan. It could be Osiris Torrance. I mean, trade back a little bit for him. That'd feel a little bit better. Could they be going for one of those other guards? We kind of heard them linked to Torrance, but could they be going for Steve Avila, Joe Tippmann, who's a center that could move to guard? less likely, but those are kind of some wild cards there that I'm giving you here. Will they need a corner when they're picking down there? Well, I think they would like Deonte Banks quite a bit. I think they would like him more than Porter Jr. They trade down and get a guy like Forbes. Possibility, not counting on it. Do they trade down from 18 and grab one of those D tackles? Bruzzy, Cansey. It's a possibility. I like Keanu Benton a lot. Possibility. If they're going to go trade back from 18, because that's kind of their plan right now. I feel like they know they can get somebody where they trade back to, and they're going to get some picks. So, who could they know they're going to get? Are they after a tight end? With that, I know the fans would be upset there. Would they rather have Jahmyr Gibbs instead of Bijan? Trade down and look for a guy like that. I'm just trying to get all the scenarios here. So teams that have 2 picks have quite a few scenarios, and especially if we know they want to trade down, it kind of gives you 3 different sections of scenarios here. But yeah, it should be a fun night for the Detroit Lions and their fans because they got multiple picks here, and they've been killing it in the draft. Let's see if Brad Holmes can kind of go 3 for 3 here. That's kind of big storylines for me, kind of what I'm looking for, so can't wait. Raiders at pick 7. Pick 7. They were a huge mystery for me for most of this process, but now it's kind of getting narrowed down a little bit, and it's going to depend on what happens in front of them. I hear they really like Witherspoon. They're kind of in the same boat as the Lions a little bit. I hear they really like Witherspoon. If he's there, if he's there, that's probably the pick. That's probably the pick. If Devin Witherspoon is there, that is probably the pick. If he is not there, I'm looking at Christian Gonzalez versus Peter Skoronski. I already know the fans really don't want Skoronski. They voiced that opinion on Twitter quite a bit, maybe in the comments on YouTube as well. I think Darnell Wright's the wild card. He just fits so well in Josh McDaniel's scheme. I think he's very good. I know Luminor played very well at right tackle. Maybe not very well, pretty well at right tackle last year. You can get better, and you're looking out for the future at the same time. And then some people like Wright playing at guard. He could be a Pro Bowl level guard, so could they take him for that reason? But you might as well go Skoronski maybe at that point. Right, either or, really. That's really not too much of a wild card to me, but it kind of would be to everybody else. So we look at if Witherspoon's there, they take him. Based on the buzz he is getting, I don't know if he'll be there. But then if Will Anderson gets pushed back and the Lions take Will Anderson, then Witherspoon could go at 3. But if Anderson goes to the Lions at 6, then Witherspoon will be here, and the Raiders will probably take him. Or maybe they prefer, like me, even though it's very close, prefer Christian Gonzalez. Or I heard they really like Peter Skoronski. They can do that. And the wild card would be Darnell Wright, along with, I'm more leaning towards the quarterbacks being wild cards right now. Could happen. Stroud must be considered if he's here. My problem is the Raiders, I think they're thinking they just signed Jimmy Garoppolo to a 3-year deal. If they sign Stroud, like a pro-ready guy, they're going to just stash him, play Garoppolo. If they bench Garoppolo, you're paying him a lot of money to never start. So you're in a little bit of a pickle, and you're gonna know that it kind of looks bad, even though you got a good quarterback, C.J. Stroud. If they went quarterback, I think they'd be for like an Anthony Richardson with his upside and sitting behind Garoppolo. They did do extreme homework on quarterbacks. They just need defense so bad, and they need to fix that offensive line as well to be able to compete right now, which McDaniels wants to do. I don't think he's like safe super long term to be able to make a move like Richardson. So I'm leaning towards that as kind of being a wild card along with Darnell Wright. Pass rusher could be a wild card as well. If Will Anderson somehow here, wouldn't be a wild card, be above that. But yeah, I look at Witherspoon if he's there. If not, it's a battle between Skoronski and Gonzalez in my mind right now. Of course, everything I say in this video is not going to be 100% accurate. It's the beauty of the draft. It's pretty unpredictable. But see what the Raiders do. I'm starting to figure them out, I think, a little bit more recently. All right, so we got the Falcons are picking 8. And, yeah, quite a few different scenarios here with the Falcons. I think this is and people will completely disagree. They think he goes way earlier. but I think Will Anderson has a somewhat of a shot to make it down here. We've kind of played through the scenarios step by step throughout this video and throughout my last mock draft. I probably won't have him dropping here in my final mock draft, but I think based on teams reaching, based on teams making up in their mind on certain guys, and teams being stupid, there's some stupid teams out there. Some of these teams continue to pick at the top because of that, unfortunately. A guy like that could drop a little bit, and the Falcons most definitely would not pass on him if he's there. So we'll get that out of the way. If he's there, they're going to take him. After that, we got quite a few scenarios. We got the 2 corners. I think they would like Gonzalez. I've heard a lot of hype about Witherspoon, not with the Falcons necessarily, but just around the league. He's going to go, he should be the first corner based on what I'm hearing. And he might be. And that's kind of my prediction. But with the Falcons, if they had the choice between the 2, I am kind of leaning towards Christian Gonzalez for them. In my prediction. But could go either of those guys. They, if Tyree Wilson's here somehow, I think they would go him too. There's no way in hell Will Anderson and Tyree Wilson are available at this point. One might be, just maybe. They would take either of those guys. I wouldn't love the Tyree Wilson pick. He's a guy you really got to move around a bit. They're actually looking pretty strong on the interior, adding Onyemata on top of Grady Jarrett, and they have Calais Campbell. So I honestly wouldn't love Tyree Wilson for them. But I think they would take him if he's there. Will Anderson would be the obvious A++ situation. I think they take a look at those corners next. And I think they take a look at Peter Skoronski. I actually know that they're looking for another guard still. I just don't know where they're valuing it. They valued Lindstrom big time. They made him very, very rich, very rich. He's a very good guard. So how are they going to value the other guard? Do they need to value it like that much, which would be a first-round pick, because they already valued extremely? I don't think so. But they might. So they probably would. It wouldn't surprise me at all if they took Skoronski. We don't see that mocked much. And then getting a little deeper down, I've heard Bijan here. I just don't see it. They like Algier. They use Cordero Patterson there. I know Bijan's on another level. They value running the football. It doesn't mean they value running backs this highly. I remember them. I thought they were going to take Javonte Williams a couple years ago. They traded back from that spot, and the Broncos with that spot, that pick, took Javonte Williams. So they didn't value it then. I just don't know if I see it. They could trade down. I've actually heard that they're interested in trading down, possibly depending on who's on the board. So that could make some sense. They trade down a little bit and take him, but I still don't even see them taking a running back in the first. Could be wrong. I've heard Nolan Smith connected to them. I think they would be more interested in more of a physical pass rusher, but could be Nolan Smith. He's getting a lot of buzz around these parts very recently. There's some teams talking about that have been linked to them, talking about trading up. Could they be trading up to hop the Falcons to get him? It's a possibility as well. So I think I pretty much name, and the kind of the wild cards would be the quarterbacks. And again, if Stroud is here, then they would have to strongly consider. Very good roster. If you add a better quarterback, plain simple, than Ritter and C.J. Stroud, you're going to be better. You're going to be a better team. So you'd have to consider it there. So we'll see what the Falcons do. You kind of listen through the top options, and then trade down is a possibility for the Atlanta Falcons. The Chicago Bears at pick 9. Heard they really like Paris Johnson Jr., but I also hear he's going to go earlier in this. He's getting a lot of buzz, and the Bears were at the top of the draft. They weren't going to take Paris Johnson Jr. at 1, but they moved back down pretty far, and they might not be able to get their guy now because all of a sudden he's soaring up boards and he's supposed to go earlier. So it sounds like he could go as early as 3. We kind of talked about that. I think if he's there, they take him. I think that's kind of their number one. If he is there, they take him. Of course, there's like Will Anderson. If he's there, Tyree Wilson, I think they take them, but they're not going to be there. I don't think Paris Johnson Jr. is going to be there either. The Cardinals could pass on him, and I guess that could result in him sliding a little bit to around 9. So I guess, if it just takes one, the Cardinals passing on him, then he definitely can be here. So that's probably, number 1 there. They could take Jalen Carter if he's available. If both Johnson Jr. and Jalen Carter were both available, I think they take Paris Johnson Jr. I'm not 100% confident on that. That's kind of what I'm thinking. So that kind of, if Paris Johnson's gone and Jalen Carter with the next, if he's gone, could a guy like Christian Gonzalez still be available and just too good to pass on? When they played Kyler Gordon in the slot a lot, and they have Jalen Johnson outside, so they could add Gonzalez if you're just too good to pass on. You have another outside corner, there for Eberflus's defense, and he'll value corners. So I could see that if he's there, which he really shouldn't be. Broderick Jones could be a fit. It's a boomer bust guy, a lot of upside. He's going to be raw right away, but the Bears are still kind of in that rebuild process, so that actually would make sense. It's a little early in this spot compared to my board, but it's not like the end of the world or anything like that. And trading back is a possibility as well. I mean, since they like Paris Johnson Jr. so much, do they trade up with all the buzz on him after trading back? I don't see it, but I guess we can give that a very small, very, very tiny percentage chance. But could they trade back? We heard the Steelers could come up. Hearing other teams, I heard the Packers could go up or go down. Same thing with the Eagles. So does somebody hop them to get Paris Johnson Jr. if he starts to slide past 3? It's a possibility as well. But I think the options are kind of limited here, though. Not saying it's limited for the Bears or anything like that. I'm just saying I'm able to narrow it down, is what I'm saying. Like Paris Johnson Jr., Jalen Carter. What if Christian Gonzalez is there? Broderick Jones. I don't think they'd take Darnell Wright or Skoronski. I've seen a lot of people mock Skoronski. I don't think they would play him at tackle because he doesn't have the length, and I think they would like him at guard, but I think they feel like they're set on the interior after signing Nate Davis. I don't know. So I don't really see that. And Darnell Wright would help pass protection, but I don't think they're going to view him as a run scheme fit. So that kind of narrows down the list there. Wild card. Take a look at. I would like Myles Murphy. I like Myles Murphy a lot more than other people. Lucas Van Ness, I would not like that pick. But that could be a wild card pick there. Joey Porter Jr. would fit scheme-wise. Eberflus run a lot of cover too. This would be early. Risky pick that early. Could it be a trade-down guy? Yes. That pretty much. Some people. I think some fans want JSN. I don't think they're gonna do that. Not really counting on that. So that's kind of my feelings on the Bears right now and what they might do. You see some of the options there. They wouldn't pass on that. This guy, Paris Johnson Jr. And the trade back is definitely a possibility. Again, they already traded back from 1. It's definitely a possibility once again. We got the Eagles at pick. What is this? 10, pick 10, and then they pick again at 30. I heard they could trade either way on this one, moving up or moving down. I had them trading up in a scenario in a mock in the past, and Eagles fans were coming from my head, so I don't think they want to trade up based on that. And that was for Will Anderson, too, and it was ridiculous. I was surprised. But they could trade up, and I talked about it, too. Will Anderson could start to slide a little bit, so could they move up for a guy like Will Anderson? I think it's a possibility. It's just such a good player, legit talent, and I think Howie Roseman and company would see that and go up and get him. They're not afraid to make that move. They're just a little limited on picks in the middle of this draft. They do have 2 first-rounders, but they're a little limited on picks. Next year they got a lot of picks, though. But another thing, I've heard them linked to Nolan Smith. I've heard a lot of other teams linked to Nolan Smith. All of a sudden, it sounds like I wouldn't take him at 10. But because I think it's a pretty risky pick there. But other teams around this range linked to him. Do they trade up to make sure they get him? Are they worried about another team trading up ahead of them? I even heard them trading up for Paris Johnson Jr. I guess they're preparing for life without Lane Johnson then? Or are they going to put Paris Johnson Jr. back to guard? I don't really think and I heard Darnell Wright's a wild card. I don't think they'd take a tackle there. Skoronski, if they were going to take a lineman, it would be Skoronski, I think. I think they would play him at guard. Well, some people do like Darnell Wright at guard too, so I guess whoever they take, maybe they would put him at guard. Do they really need to trade up for that? Skoronski might be gone, but I don't know. I definitely don't think the fans would be thrilled about that. But they're wild card picks that isn't mocked much. would be an offensive lineman like Skoronski there at 10. Nolan Smith's been linked to them. I think it's early. Definitely don't want them to trade up for him. Do they trade up for Will Anderson maybe? Does a guy like Christian Gonzalez slip through to this pick? It's sounding like it's a possibility. I think they would like him a lot, and he's maybe just too good to pass on. They did sign Bradbury and Slate to deals, though, so that's a little tough, but maybe just too good to pass on. Miles Murphy I like around this range. That'd kind of be a wild card pick based on what we're hearing. Van Ness is based on what we're hearing a little more possible than Miles Murphy. I just wouldn't like the pick, with Van Ness there. So, yeah, you see some different options there. If Jalen Carter's here, I think they take him. That's one like realistic one. Like Will Anderson being at 10 is not realistic. If Carter's there at 10, I think they take him. So we'll start with that. Gonzalez, again, maybe too good to pass on. Some other options. I'm not counting on them taking Bijan Robinson. If they trade back, maybe. I just don't think they're going to value running back like that. So other people think it could happen. I just don't. So that'd be a deeper wild card for me. Yeah. I think those offensive linemen are wild cards. I think just taking best player available or trading up for Will Anderson. Hopefully not trading up for Nolan Smith, which they could do, or an offensive lineman. I wouldn't trade up. I think Skoronski is a realistic pick. We talked about this. So, and then with the 30th pick, I think they actually could trade back with that pick. I actually haven't heard that, but I think they could. A team like the Texans could come up from 33. The Eagles could just move back 3 spots and gain those extra mid-round picks, or just picks if they need. So that actually makes some sense. If they stay put at 30, depends on what they do with the first pick. If they need an edge rusher down there, I love Will McDonald for them. Would they take a shot on Keon White? BJ Ojulari I would kind of like. Do they go Jahmyr Gibbs down there? I used to mock that, kind of stopped. It's definitely a possibility, taking that running back down there rather than up here. Receiver could be a wild card. I'm not counting on it. Heard JSN for that 10 spot. I'm not counting on it either, but it's definitely possible to play that slot role. Do they take a interior offense lineman down there? Torrance, Avila, wild card picks there. Corner, Emmanuel Forbes, Julius Brents. Possibilities there. So that's kind of what we're looking out at for the Eagles with their 2 picks. Tennessee Titans picking 11. This is one of those teams where I just really don't know what the hell they're going to do, to be honest. I think if the right quarterback slides to them, they can take him. If Stroud slides down here, pretty ridiculous, but I think they would take him. Richardson, it's a possibility he's here. They could take him. Levis, they might if he's here. I don't think he's going to be here. But do they trade up? Been talk about that. Maybe for Stroud, if he really starts to slide. I've been hearing they're looking to trade back, though. So that kind of almost takes quarterback off the table. But what if there's that quarterback slides to 11? Possibility. Looking to trade back. Who could it be for? Do you trade back for an offensive lineman? This is right around the sweet spot where they're going to come off the board. I think if they stay put, they can take Skoronski. They can take, that's the one. You kind of, if they stay put, that's who maybe they would take. But if they move back, is it moving back for a guy like Broderick Jones? If they move back a little bit, moving back further, is it like an Anton Harrison? So I don't know if it's lineman either if they want to move back. It kind of almost eliminates quarterback because you don't move back for a quarterback. The offensive lineman is kind of the sweet spot. Do you move back? You're moving back for a receiver. This is kind of the sweet spot for JSN, who is a realistic pick at 11. It's one of the options at 11. So you're not moving back to take him. Would it be for Addison? Would it be for Zay Flowers? Possibility. Corners, Joey Porter Jr., I think they would like as a fit if they move back a little bit. Those are kind of the options for me with them. This is kind of a mystery team on what they're going to do here. So should be fun with them. Our live stream, we'll have Pigskin Pete with me, who's a diehard Titans fan. So his reactions are always pretty good. So in a bad way last year with the A.J. Brown situation. So should be interesting. We'll see what they do. The Packers now have the 13th overall pick. And I didn't hear both ways. I heard that they can move up. I think they could move back. They got a more valuable pick at 13, move back, get even more picks. But I have heard that they got closer. They moved up to 13 to move up for somebody else. Who could that be? Could it be for a tackle, looking for that guy of the future? Could it be for a pass rusher? I heard they really like Nolan Smith. I heard that today. I honestly think it's a little early at 13, so I wouldn't love trading up for Nolan Smith. They usually look for more of the bigger body guys, a little heavier. So that's interesting as well. But they do like Georgia guys. We learned that last year. 2 in the first round. They can take another one in the first round. And I've heard him linked to teams like the Eagles and a little bit the Falcons. So they could move up to get him. I would not recommend it in this draft class. Is the reason why teams want to move back, trade down. And then it's a little risky moving up for a guy like Nolan Smith. I think it's a little early at 13. I've heard they really like the tight ends, both Michael Mayer and Dalton Kincaid. Some people are mocking Kincaid up here. It's just sounding like what they're hearing from teams that he's going to go earlier. But I also heard they like how Michael Mayer is very complete. They've been searching for more of the complete tight end that guy can actually block. So could they take a Mayer or Kincaid at 13? It might seem a little early, but it's definitely possible. Jackson Smith and Jigba is another option. Miles Murphy to me is one of more of their type, and I would love that pick. Van Ness is a little bit of their type. Does feel like a little early. I'm not super high on him, but I could see that. Is Brian Branch a possibility? May be a more of a wild card. People think receiver like Jackson Smith and Jigba, but maybe they don't go him. Maybe they go Addison Zay Flowers, like in that range, a little bit more of a wild card, but those are possibilities as well. So it definitely became interesting since they traded up to 13, and do they move again? So that's what we're looking forward to see with the Packers here. Patriots at 14 in need of a tackle pretty badly. Does one last one slip through to them? Paris Johnson Jr. is starting to go earlier. That can push everybody up earlier. And I don't think they would like every single one of those top tackles. I think their best opportunity would be the best one for them, actually. So it's kind of could be wrong, but I think I'm right on which one's the best option for them, but I could be wrong on him being available, like being an actual option. But that's Darnell Wright. I love the fit scheme-wise. I think he's a heck of a tackle as well. My favorite one in the class, actually. So I think it's a possibility he's here, and that would be a great pick for them. That would be a great pick. Broderick Jones, possibility he's here. It's a boomer bust guy, but if he's the best one available and he is worth a pick around this range, he's a risky pick though, but they could go that route. I love Brian Branch. I have an elite grade on him. I think it's a great fit with the Patriots. They could go Brian Branch. I heard if somehow Gonzalez or Witherspoon slip through to here, they'll take one of those guys. I don't think they would trade up for a corner though. I think Deonte Banks is a really good fit. I don't think they take him here. I'm not counting on it, but I think he's a really good fit. That could be a kind of a wild card pick that isn't talked about a whole lot. I see a lot of people saying Jackson Smith and Jigba and Zay Flowers. I don't see either one. I really don't see Jackson Smith and Jigba because they have Juju. They signed Juju and he's a slot receiver. You're not going to draft this high another slot receiver. JSN really going to play in the slot. Flowers actually played more outside in the slot, pretty close to even, but he's projected to play more in the slot in the NFL. I think more teams will like him there. But you never say never, but I'm just really not counting on that with the Patriots there. Pass rushers possibility. They could be one of the teams in on Nolan Smith as well. Would they take Miles Murphy if he's here? Lucas Van Ness. I think Will McDonald's a good fit. I think he's a really good fit. A little bit of a wild card because you don't see him get mocked this early. So I think it's just a really good fit. You know how they use their pass rushers there. Kind of like a hybrid guy, can play multiple spots. So I think scheme fit wise, it makes sense. And I like Will McDonald a bit. So those are kind of the options there for the Patriots there at 14. Jets are interesting since they traded back from 13 to 15 in that Rodgers trade. I really thought they were going to be attacking a tackle, but they might have had the last crack at the top of the last of the top of the tackles, if that makes sense. But now they move behind the Patriots, so I don't know. I don't know if one will be here. Do they try to move back up? That'd be a little weird. But so maybe it's not tackle. Maybe it's a tackle that it would be a reach here. They just knew they would get, but I don't think Darnell Wright will be here. Broderick Jones. I mean, those are their only opportunities. I'm just not expecting it. Anton Harrison, DeJuan Jones, those would be pretty big reaches here. Do they trade back again? Jackson Smith and Jig was a possibility. They missed out on OBJ. They could use another receiver. Could he be here? He could go to the Titans, Packers, around that range, though. Jordan Addison's a possibility. Maybe Zay Flowers been getting a lot of buzz. I think you got enough pass rushers. Interior defensive lineman, it seems early for those guys here. So, yeah, it's there's not a whole lot of options right now. It just depends on if a tackle slips through. I think if there was one, I mentioned it. Broderick Jones, maybe Darnell Wright. One of the receivers, those are the kind of the options I look at, but they're an interesting team for sure right now, so we'll see what they do. Again, I mentioned the trade back again. If they're targeting one of the other tackles, if they don't want it to be a reach, maybe. If they're targeting a defensive tackle to play next to Quinn Williams, trade back even further, maybe. So that could be a wild card team for a trade back. But a lot of teams want to trade back. It's difficult to do, so we'll see. Washington at 16. Yeah, they've always kind of been a wild card team the last couple of drafts, like doing the unexpected. So it could happen again. In that case, it would be one of the tight ends, maybe with Kincaid or Mayer, or one of the interior offensive linemen. Perhaps like Osiris Torrance, Steve Avila, Joe Tippmann. Trade back would make a little more sense. Remember, they traded back last year and it worked out with Dotson, but so it was surprisingly what they did there. But I think I know they're taking a look at the corners. So maybe if they weren't going to go the wild card route, like we just kind of talked about, which they are kind of a wild card team, but like the more likely, take a look at those corners. Joey Porter Jr. and Deonte Banks. Those are kind of if I had to put odds on it, those kind of would be at the top. And then Brian Branch. I put Brian Branch up there as well as a slot corner. And they moved on from Bobby McCain there, so who kind of played that role, was like a safety that played in the slot. So that's what Branch is. Those three. I keep hearing Joey Porter Jr., and I said that, and some of the fans I think were saying that they're not going to go at Porter based on their writers, Commanders writers. They're not going Porter Jr., but I keep hearing they're linked to that. Maybe that means... maybe that's smoke. Maybe they're linked to Banks, really, or Brian Branch. Brian Branch would be a really good pick. I like Brian Branch. So, again, the wild cards could be tight end or guard. Deeper wild card tackle. It'd be a reach for the next set of tackles here. Again, trade back's a possibility. Yeah, that's or I mean, they go pass rusher. Chase Young, they decline the option there. Myles Murphy, that would be a pretty good pick. Myles Murphy, they may like Lucas Van Ness if he's there. Those are the two. Yeah, those are the two. If they were to go pass rusher, that I'd keep an eye out for. So glad I just thought of that. It's a possibility there as well. Steelers at 17. Another interesting team because it sounds like they could want to move up. We know they need one last piece of that offensive line, so they could move. I feel like they would like Paris Johnson Jr., which I don't think they're going to be able to trade up for him because he's going to go earlier. And then I wouldn't, I wouldn't really. I like Darnell Wright. I don't know if they'll view him as a fit. I wouldn't trade up for Broderick Jones. Boomer bust guy. They haven't really been working well with offensive linemen lately. I would not trade up for him. I would kind of take the shot and maybe he drops to you. Would they trade up for Skoronski and play him at left tackle? I'm not counting on it, but maybe. And then you take. One other thing I heard. I actually heard they like Nolan Smith, which is a little surprising because they have a couple starting pass rushers in there, some good ones. They tried to get Bud Dupree back. That didn't work out, but are they going to value it that much? And I heard his name buzzing a lot. Teams could be trading up. Earlier teams could take him. So do they trade up for Nolan Smith? I would not agree with that either at all. But just that's kind of like a wild card. Do they take another pass rusher here? Is Nolan Smith going to be available here? Do they take Van Ness down here? Will McDonald, something like that, maybe a little bit more wild card as well. They take a look at those. We know they want to tackle. Perhaps we heard they could trade up for Jalen Carter. It's a possibility as well. But staying put, look at those corners. Or do they trade up for a corner? Do they trade up for Gonzalez if he slips through? Maybe. But they stay put. Look at Deonte Banks and Joey Porter Jr. I think those are pretty high, if they stay put, high on the odds list of who they could take between the two. I think more people are expecting Joey Porter Jr., but I would not be surprised with them picking Banks over him. Not that I'm predicting it. Not that I'm predicting it, but possibility there. Brian Branch, kind of a wild card guy, the slot corner. That's where I'm at with the Steelers. The Bucs are a team I think are set in the first round because there's a lot of fits that I really, really like. I think they can stay put, and somebody that they're going to like, that I'm going to like for them, is going to be there. I mean, Brian Branch is the best case because I think it's a tremendous fit. And it's just a phenomenal ball player to me. I'm a huge Branch fan. So that's something I'm looking for. I think I don't think they're going to take Hendon Hooker anymore. I once thought that. I think it's a really good fit, what they're trying to do there. But I do like the fit. I'm just not counting on it. A couple of those interior offensive linemen, Osiris Torrance, which that's not going to be the sexiest pick. Maybe like looking at my board on where he's ranked, maybe a little early, but not a big deal. Would be a little bit of a reach for Steve Avila, but I can see them liking him. Maybe they can trade back. Possibility. Do they take a tackle? It kind of be a reach for one of those guys, Anton Harrison or DeJuan Jones. Pass rusher could be a wild card. Will McDonald, B.J. Ojulari be a wild card. So that's kind of where I'm at with them. But there's some pretty good fits there that I like. A couple of those guards fit, even if it feels like it's a little early. But Branch seems like a really good option there for them. Pass rushers, could happen. It's a little bit of a wild card there, but the ones I mentioned. So we'll see what happens with the Bucs. Chargers, I've recently heard Dalton Kincaid linked to them. If he's there, they'll take him. Do they trade up for him since he's getting a lot of buzz? For them, I wouldn't recommend trading up. They wouldn't trade up for Kincaid. Addison makes a lot of sense for them, and he could slip through and be there. He could. If he's there, I think he's the pick. I'm starting to lean towards that. If Kincaid and Addison are both there, that's tough. I really like Addison for them. I think they'll really like Addison. But Kincaid does fit, as well. But those are two big options. Bijan Robinson, if he's there. Maybe Jahmyr Gibbs, kind of a wild card, kind of if they're replacing Eckler. That's more of the Eckler replacement. Then they need, like a Bijan would be pretty big. I think Kellen Moore might be pounding the table for a guy like that. I kind of in a little thin with the options, like in a good way, where I feel like I kind of can narrow it down. If Addison's also on the board, do we throw Zay Flowers in the mix here? Maybe Michael Mayer. I feel like when I heard to like Kincaid a little more, but if he's off the board and Mayer's on the board, maybe there. Then we take a look. I don't think they would take a corner. Could they take a Brian Branch? Can't rule it out. Pass rusher. It'd be a wild card pick. Looking at Murphy, Van Ness, Ojulari, Will McDonald, guys like that. But Addison, Kincaid, Bijan, Mayer, and then maybe Zay Flowers. That's kind of my options here for the Chargers. Could they be a trade up or trade down team? They could be a sneaky team to move around a little bit. Wouldn't love it moving up for Kincaid though. Would not love it. Ravens at 22. They have 5 draft picks, so I thought during most of this pre-draft process that they could trade back a little bit, get some more picks, and they weren't too active in free agency, so getting more picks could also help you there as well. So they could be a trade back team just because of common sense. They could stay put if somebody's just too good to pass on. Heard they really like Zay Flowers. Jordan Addison could be an option. If Joey Porter Jr., Deontay Banks are still here, they would look towards those. Those are some realistic options. Bijan Robinson, I've mocked it. They really value running backs, expiring deals for some of their guys, and their guys are good, but they have durability concerns, and you just get better with Bijan Robinson. So I did mock that last time. Fans didn't like it, and it actually was a report today. If he's there, they would take him, and they actually can consider moving up, trading up for him. I don't know if I count on them trading up for a running back, especially with limited picks. It wouldn't make a whole lot of sense, but they like those running backs. So keep an eye out for Bijan Robinson. This could be a legit landing spot. So I put him towards the top. Zay Flowers. I think Jordan Addison will be gone. Those 2 corners, Joey Porter Jr. and Deontay Banks, one or both will be gone, though. Emmanuel Forbes, DJ Turner, get even more wild card-ish for a corner. I think another wild card is offensive line. Steve Avila, Osiris Torrance, DeJuan Jones, Anton Harrison. It would feel a little early, but Osiris Torrance wouldn't feel that early. But those are kind of wild card picks that I actually could see. I know fans weren't happy with me, when I threw out that scenario in the past. Yeah, so those are the options for me. I don't really see Quentin Johnston, deeper wild card there. Yeah, so those are the options. So a team that can do multiple things. I mean, guys are just too good to pass on, or they can trade back, which makes sense, or even possibly trade up. So interesting team on day one of the NFL draft here. All right, the Vikings at 23. A lot of buzz about them moving up for a quarterback. I think them moving up inside the top 10. I just don't see that happening. Maybe just talk right now. If a quarterback really started to slide, then maybe they don't have to move up too far. Then I can see it. I've heard all offseason they like Will Levis. I don't think they would take Anthony Richardson. But if they want to move up a little bit with Levis, if he starts slide, I don't expect it. Stroud, I can see that maybe it wasn't expected to be a possibility for them, so maybe they like him more than Levis, and if he starts slide, they can move up. I'm just not counting on all that. Hooker's been linked to them at 23. I could see it. It's not going to be my prediction, though, but I can see it, and they don't have a second-round pick. That kind of goes into, maybe not trading up. I can see the Hooker thing, but maybe focusing on other needs since they don't have a second-round pick. I think moving back is a strong possibility. More likely moving back than moving up because, again, they don't have a second-round pick. They would like more picks. So, yeah, that's something to look out for. Staying put, if a guy like Jordan Addison is there, I don't think they pass. I think that would be the guy like they take. There's a couple other guys in that boat, though. I like the fits for the Vikings in this draft. Jordan Addison, Brian Branch, Deonte Banks. Those are three guys that really fit the Vikings and are also probably too good to pass on. So if multiple of those guys are on the board here, tough decision. But those are like big three guys that I think they wouldn't pass on. Like next on that list, Zay Flowers. I heard they like him a lot. Could they be in on a guy like Quentin Johnston? Maybe if they trade back to the end of the first round. Emmanuel Forbes is another corner. Possibly, if they trade back a little bit, Drew Sanders makes some sense, looking for that blitz linebacker. Brian Branch really involved in the blitz. That's why I really like him as a slot guy. I just don't think he's going to be here. I think he's just way too talented to be here. And then, just kind of look at those receivers, the corners, the wild card of Drew Sanders being that blitz linebacker. Jahmyr Gibbs could be a wild card if they're looking to move on from Dalvin Cook. What if Bijan's here? Do they consider that? I don't expect him to be here, but what if he's here? So some options there. And the quarterback talk is pretty interesting as well. I don't expect a big trade up, if a trade up at all. It definitely wouldn't be a big one for the Vikings. Jags, I know their fans want Brian Branch. That's kind of the dream. If he's there, I don't think they pass because he's just that good of a player. I just don't think he's going to be there. So I'm really looking at interior offensive line, or no, not just interior, just offensive line. Replacing Juwan Taylor. It feels a little early, but Anton Harrison, DeJuan Jones would be the options possibly. A lot of buzz on Matthew Bergeron. I'm not going to like to pick whoever takes him in the first. If somebody takes him in the first round, I'm not going to like to pick. I don't see it here. You never know. If they're going guard, Osiris Torrance, Steve Avila, Joe Tippmann, more the wild card in that category. If you're looking at corner, could Deonte Banks be here? Probably not. So you look at Emmanuel Forbes. Heard DJ Turner's name pop up a bit about potentially sneaking in the first. So I'd look out for him as well. And then in terms of the defensive side, we were just talking about defensive side, actually, the corners. But in terms of the pass rushers, if they were to go that route, Will McDonald's a pretty good fit. I think they'll like him with his length. B.J. Ojulari, I think it's a really good fit as well. Those two are really good fits. What they look for and what they try to do. More so Will McDonald with the length, but he also can play multiple spots. And B.J. Ojulari has some length on him, but he can rush. You can align him in different spots, kind of like Arden Key, and he can stand up and rush from different spots. So I actually like those fits a lot. Again, Brian Branch is the ultimate A+. If he's there, you take him. That's who you want, and I would love it as well. But the other guys I mentioned are realistic. I think the the sexier picks are maybe those couple pass rushers that I just mentioned over the guards, or maybe the reaches at tackle. Emmanuel Forbes is a pretty appealing pick, I think, as well. Or, of course, if Deontay Banks or Joey Porter Jr. are there, then maybe that route. I don't know if I would love Joey Porter as a fit. I don't expect him there anyways, but yeah, so my thoughts on the Jags there. The New York Football Giants. I heard they could make a splash move. I think it was a Giants reporter that said that. They could make a splash move. Watch out for it. And yeah, I could see them moving up a little bit because they did their homework on receivers. They really, really did. And they did extra homework on, first I heard two guys, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Jordan Addison, the consensus top two. But I heard they really like Zay Flowers as well. So those are three receivers to keep an eye on. And you might have to trade up for all three. I would rather stay put if it's for Zay Flowers. I would rather stay put. Jordan Addison, I'd stay put for JSN too. Why? He's my number one receiver, but why? You have to trade too far up. So that leaves us with staying put to take Zay Flowers, realistic, or trading up a little bit, get ahead of the Chargers. Get ahead of the Chargers. If Jordan Addison starts to slide and you take Jordan Addison, that would make some sense there. I'm not saying I would love it. I would absolutely love it. Trading up, giving away picks, but that would make sense to me. And they've done their homework. So we're kind of throwing out JSM because that'd be too far of a trade up, unless he starts to slide a little bit, of course. I think they would like. I talked about this in the last mock too. I think they would like Addison over JSN, believe it or not. A little bit of a bold prediction, little bold, not too bold. I think Addison's number one on their board. That'd be my prediction for receivers. But a lot of buzz on Zay Flowers recently. I actually heard from multiple different sources if Michael Mayer is here, the tight end from Notre Dame. Watch out for that to be the pick. They just traded for Darren Waller. But then again, you could pair Mayer with Waller because he's more of an inline guy. Waller's almost like your big receiver. So maybe. So I guess watch out for that. I'm not really counting on it fully, but yeah, watch out for that. Corner, Deontay Banks, if he's here, I think they would strongly consider Deontay Banks. Brian Branch, I would love for them. I don't think he's going to be here, and they did bring in Bobby McCain to kind of play that role, so maybe not there. I don't think he's going to be there anyways. Banks, if he's here, I said that. Really good fit, Martinelli scheme. Emmanuel Forbes, DJ Turner, kind of those next options. I mean, I wouldn't love DJ Turner here, but I heard some buzz that he could sneak in the first round. Some team eyeing him, maybe. Could it be the Giants? Trying to think. Maybe Leonard Williams is on his way out, so they look at that spot, but that's so specific, a 3-4 end. Do they think Keon White or Adi Tagovailoa, guys like that, the wild cards that can play that spot perhaps? Kalijah Cansey, it's more of a deeper wild card pick there for that role. Guard's not talked about a lot. They're set at tackle, but guard, interior offensive line, not talked about a lot. Osiris Torrance, Steve Avila, Joe Tippmann. Tippmann can help them at center or guard. Avila, too. I'd look out for those two if they're going to go that route. That actually would not surprise me. It would surprise a lot of people. It would not surprise me. Steve Avila, Joe Tippmann. It would feel a tiny bit early. Cody Malk could be the long shot one there. I heard some team maybe would risk it for the biscuit on Matthew Bergeron and put him at guard in the first round. I would not like it, but maybe they do that. I would hate it, actually. Other receivers, Johnston maybe as well. So I guess we got a lot of options for the Giants, but I think we kind of focused on the receivers here, and then we really could put Deontay Banks up there high on the list if he's there. That's kind of where I'm at for the Giants. They could trade up. It's a possibility. Cowboys, well, first, if Bijan Robinson's there, I think they take him. If he's there. I don't think he's going to be there, though. We've heard that if Michael Mayer is there, they will take him. I think it's a possibility. Starting to think he's not going to be there early. I've been mocking them Steve Avila. I think it's a really good fit, what they look for in versatile offensive linemen. So I'd watch out for Steve Avila, maybe Osiris Torrance if he's there. I heard them linked to Joe Tippmann, who's been getting some buzz lately. A guy that could play center or guard. Out of those three, I would think they would like Avila a little bit more. So yeah, Bijan if he's there. Jahmyr Gibbs is a strong possibility. Mayer we talked about. Maybe Dalton Kincaid. I think they would like Mayer a little bit more, but who knows. We talked about the offensive lineman, tight end, running back. Defense, I heard somebody say they could take a pass rusher there. I don't see it. Miles Murphy, if he's there, that'd be a steal. Van Ness, maybe. I don't really see it, though. Interior defensive lineman, you look at Cansey, Benton, Mozzie Smith, Boraway, Keon White, I guess if you're going to go an edge rusher like that, get a versatile guy. I think these are more wild cards. I'm kind of looking at running back, tight end, interior offensive line. It's kind of where I'm at with the Cowboys. Bills, an interesting team. Could they trade up again this year? I wouldn't recommend it. I heard it's possible. I think it'd be for Zay Flowers. Or like an Addison, and maybe we'll have to go a little further for that, but it'd be like a Zay Flowers. If they stay put, a receiver. I think Flowers has a possibility to slip here. I don't think it's going to happen based on what I've been hearing. Quentin Johnston, I've actually heard, we talked about on Twitter that they could be already looking for a Gabe Davis replacement because they feel like they won't be able to pay him, coming up. So Johnston could be that guy. Hyatt would be the receiver wild card. Mingo, Cedric Tillman. These would be the receiver wild cards, which I have ranked ahead of Quentin Johnson. So I have Johnson and Mingo like right next to each other. But those could be the receiver wild cards. Here's a wild card one that I actually could see. I've been mentioning him with a couple of last teams. Joe Tippmann. Joe Tippmann's got he's getting some buzz lately. The Wisconsin center, but buzz about playing guard, and he can help him at guard right now. But they could be in need of a center for the future as well, so that could help him there. But if they're looking maybe for, I don't think they're going to take a right tackle. They're going to insist on Spencer Brown. Again, the other guards are possibilities as well. Steve Avila, Cyrus Torrance. If Cyrus Torrance is here, they strongly consider him probably. Heard a team, some crazy team could take Matthew Bergen, the tackles from Syracuse, and either put him at tackle or guard. Could it be the Bills? I wouldn't like the pick at all. Defensive lineman, I would love Benton. I would love Keanu Benton for them. I'm a big Benton guy. You don't see that mocked ever. I would like to pick. I don't think it's going to happen. Could they go with a Mozzie Smith? I really wouldn't love that one. I don't think they're going to take Cansey. Could they go corner again? Emmanuel Forbes, DJ Turner, possibility. Kind of looking at those receivers, and I'm kind of looking at the interior offensive line with the Buffalo Bills. I wouldn't mind trading back. I would like Keanu Benton for them. Trade back a little bit, get Keanu Benton. I don't think they're going to do it though. So that's where my head's at with the Bills there. The Bengals could go multiple routes here. They can go with, again, we've mentioned these guys a lot for these last few teams, but, if they want another tackle, DeJuan Jones and Anton Harrison are the guys around this range. Been hearing crazy buzz that somebody might take Matthew Bergen around here from Syracuse. I wouldn't love it, but maybe it could be them. If they want interior, I don't think Torrance will be here by this point. I don't even know if Avila will be here. But those two, and then Joe Tippmann, Cody Malk from North Dakota State could be a wild card to sneak in the end of the first rounds. Those are options. Michael Mayer, Dalton Kincaid, if they're here, maybe. Sounds like they'll be gone, though. Good pass rusher's bound to be here. Between Miles Murphy, Van Ness, Will McDonald, B.J. Ojulari, they could take a look at some of those guys. Some of those I would like a lot. Some of those. Could they go interior defensive lineman like Keanu Benton, who I like a lot? Elijah Cansey. They could go those routes. Corner. Yeah, Emmanuel Forbes, DJ Turner. Turner feels a little early. I think they would like him as a fit. I heard some team could take a shot at him in late first. Julius Brents. I can actually see those. What I just said. Forbes, Turner, Brents, Keely Ringo. I think those are possibilities. there. And we take a look at the offensive lineman. We take a look at Jahmyr Gibbs possibility as well. So you have options. Start to have more options once we get down the list. It's a little easier at the top here in this type of video. But, they can go multiple routes there. Really good team. Going to be a Super Bowl contender. So we'll see which one of those players they add. But I'm mainly looking at those. I just kind of talked myself into one of those corners. But the pass rushers, like if Lucas Van Ness is here, This is actually more of his range for me. If he's here, I think they would like him. I would think Myles Murphy would be an absolute steal. Will McDonald, B.J. Ojulari, kind of. I have those guys actually ahead of Van Ness, believe it or not. Yeah, and those linemen are definitely possibilities for the Bengals as well. Saints heard they could look to trade up. I'm taking a look at if they're looking to trade up, and I think they want a pass rusher. Myles Murphy would be great for them. He can go. He's got such a big range of where he can go in the first round, but Myles Murphy would be what they're looking for. That's a big time pick, even if they have to trade up for him. But could be for Van Ness as well. That's a possibility. I wouldn't love trading up for him. Will McDonald, if they stay put, maybe. He has the length they look for. Does he have the size? Don't think they would take Ojulari. Keon White, I wouldn't like trading up for him. I question if I would like it staying put as well. A wild card if they stay put. Isaiah Foskey from Notre Dame would be a wild card if they stay put at an edge rush position. I don't know. They signed a couple interior defense linemen. I don't think they take one here. They love their corners. Do they move up a little bit for Deontay Banks or Emmanuel Forbes? Possibly get Forbes staying put. Receiver, do they go up for the Zay Flowers? I wouldn't imagine going up for Quentin Johnson. They can stay put and take him. Wild card could be tight end like Michael Mayer. Do they move for a guard? That'd be a wild card. One of those guards. I'm more looking at I'm kind of firm with the edge rushers. If they're gonna move up, be a Myles Murphy or Van Ness. I would much prefer Myles Murphy. If they stay put, Will McDonald, Keon White. That's where I'm looking with the Saints. Emmanuel Forbes for corner. Receivers possibility as well. For the Saints there. So we'll see what they do. If they do, I would recommend they stay put, but we'll see. And the Chiefs, the last pick in the first round. We'll talk about some of the other teams too, but I've heard quite a few guys linked to them. I've seen them linked to Zay Flowers quite a bit. They would have to trade up. They do have a lot of picks. This is a big time trade up team to watch out for. They weren't afraid to do it last year. I think they won't be afraid to do it this year. Big time trade up team. Zay Flowers could it be for a different receiver? I would love Jalen Hyatt for them. A big Jalen Hyatt guy. Could they possibly stay put and get him? I think it's a possibility. Staying put, I heard Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm not expecting it with Pacheco's success. But I guess watch out for Gibbs. Staying put, I heard Mozzie Smith. I wouldn't be in love with the pick, but maybe. What else staying put? Some of those pass rushers, Keon White. Trade up, Murphy, Van Ness. Some of those guys. Staying put, Keanu Benton, who I like Keanu Benton a lot. That'd be I would be good with that there over Mozzie Smith. Most people have Mozzie Smith over Benton. I have Benton over Mozzie Smith. Could they go pretty damn far up and get a guy like Jordan Addison instead of Zay Flowers? Maybe they would take Zay Flowers over Jordan Addison. Again, I would really like Hyatt for them. So those are kind of my options for the Chiefs. If they staying put, Anton Harrison. I don't think they would go for DeJuan Jones. Could be wrong, but I don't think they would. Anton Harrison. So those some specific names being linked to the Chiefs lately. So that's what I got on them. So real quick, the teams that don't have a first round pick. This was mainly a first round video. The Rams. I heard they like Zay Flowers a lot. They would have to trade up. I don't know if they could afford to give away more picks, but I did hear they like him. So that mean they're attacking a receiver. With their actual pick, maybe, if they're looking for that type of receiver, Josh Downs. Does Jalen Hyatt slip through a little bit? Do they not go with that type of receiver? Do they go with like a Mingo or Quentin Johnson or Cedric Tillman? Wouldn't really rule it out. Try to find what you thought you were going to get in Allen Robinson. So I guess receiver is more of a watch for them. There's some corners I really like for them. Keely Ringo, Brents, Cam Smith. Emmanuel Forbes, if he's there, like those guys. I think Kincaid's a phenomenal fit. You'd have to trade up in the first to get him. It sounds like I wouldn't do that. So that's kind of my thoughts on the Rams. Edge rusher, if Will McDonald somehow slips through, I would love that. B.J. Ojulari would love that. So my thoughts on the Rams. Dolphins, don't pick in the first. They have a middle of second round pick. I heard they really like Jahmyr Gibbs. They would have to move up pretty far for him. We actually talked about that would be a really good fit for them. They'd have to move up pretty far. In terms of tackles, they would have to move up a bit. Could like Matthew Bergeron. He should go around that range where they're at, but it sounds like he's going to go earlier. So they have to move up for that as well. Same with DeJuan Jones or Anton Harrison. So they're in a tough spot. Having to forfeit that first round pick was pretty damn brutal, obviously. Goes without saying, I guess. Other picks they could look for. Well, if they want to stay put, if they want to tackle Carter Warren, I actually have him ahead of Bergeron, which is rare, but I do. Could they add a defensive tackle to pair next to Christian Wilkins? Would love Keanu Benton. Would love it. Mozzie Smith, does he drop to them? I think Benton's better, but better chance of him being there anyways. That's a tight end wild card. Darnell Washington, I think they would like if he's there. Luke Musgrave, maybe a little bit of a wild card. Those guys could go earlier in them that spot though, so we'll see. Now it gets a little tougher, but we going all the way down to the early third round. The Broncos could be looking for edge rushers down there, perhaps. They're a little tough to figure out. Once we got to get through a lot of the draft to see what these next couple teams I'm going to talk about. What specific players, but edge player would be big time. Could a guy like Derek Hall be available down there? That would be pretty good. That would kind of be a steal, for the Broncos. That's kind of that top end there. Really trying to think here. This was mainly a first round video, so I apologize to any fans of these teams down here. But we're looking at, could they add a strong safety? Antonio Johnson could make some sense. Jair Brown, maybe. J.L. Skinner, guys like that. Linebacker, Drew Sanders will probably be gone. I don't think they would like Simpson as a fit. Henley, no, I don't know if they would like it. DeMarvion Overshown, possibly. Some guys to, kind of keep an eye on for the Broncos down there. We'll have a better idea as we go through the draft and we have our mock drafts before day 2, things like that. Browns have quite a few picks. They don't pick in the first 2 rounds, though, but they could look to trade back up into the second round. It's a possibility. I know they like Jalen Hyatt. If he starts to slide a little bit, that could be a guy they trade up for. Could look to add some interior defensive linemen. If they see a guy like Benton start to slide a little bit, could they move up for him? That is also a possibility. That'd be big time for them. Could they add another linebacker? Some of those guys, Deion Henley, DeMarvion Overshown if they stay put in the third rounds. Marte Mapu they could like a little bit. So those are Trenton Simpson if they want to move up, if he starts to slide. So those are some of the guys that the Browns could look to get if they move up or even stay put. The Niners, what I know is that they are doing homework on corners. They're looking for more corners there. I mean, the perfect, ideal, Julius Brents would be great. You'd have to trade up, which they possibly can do. Cam Smith, you'd have to move up, which they possibly can do. Corey Trice is an interesting one. You have to move up a little bit for him, or maybe they can stay put the Purdue corner. So I'd like him as well. DJ Turner, you'd have to move up. Some of those corners they really could be looking at. Those ones I just really like for them. Most of them you have to move up. Could they be looking for... I really think they're focusing on corners. It's hard to say. We'll do our day 2 mock draft when we know who's available. We have a better idea then. Offensive linemen around there, Wanya Morris, Carter Warren, to replace McGlinchey perhaps. We have to trade up for Bergeron, wouldn't recommend it. Another edge rusher. Move up for Foskey or stay put for Isaiah McGuire, Tuli Pelotu, guys like that. Those are guys that I'm looking out for here for the 49ers. So does that wrap? This was way longer than I expected, but that wraps it up for this video. So if you guys enjoyed it, I guess, yeah, I put a lot into this one and went on for an hour and 25 minutes here. So, all right. We got you guys covered for the draft. Make sure you turn notifications on, like, subscribe, and get ready for that live stream. And make sure you follow us on Twitter. Links pinned in the comments for anything you're looking for. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.